Hi everyone, I hope all of you are doing well. So in this episode we are going to grab our user model and we are going to create a dynamic HTML page that will allow some users to submit their information regarding the way that they want to register to our website. So it is going to be very cool to customize an HTML page where users can submit some information and then we are going to submit this information inside our database. So let's get started. Okay, so previously we have created our user model, but we currently don't have any special way to create users to our website. Besides, the only way to do that will be by our terminal. And we are probably looking for a way to customize a nice looking HTML page for our customers, so they will have the ability to register to our website. So the way we can do that is by customizing an HTML form. Now we probably want to make this form smart enough to check certain things to see if this information is valid. So for example, you can't create a user if there is already a user with the same name or if your password length does not meet the requirements of your website or anything else that is quite dealing with validating stuff when it comes to register to a website. So in order to create our forms to register smart enough, Flask delivers already a built-in package to create forms, and this also allows us to display it nicer on our HTML templates. So in order to start working with this, we need to go ahead to our terminal and install some packages. So this is why I will open my terminal here and I will basically type in some pip install commands. So the first one will be pip install flask-wtf. And this is the first package that will allow us to create nice looking forms and then later on to display them on our HTML templates. So I will clean the screen here. And our second package will be pip install wt forms. So you can see that it is already installed. Probably this was a secondary package under the flask-wtf. So anyway, just write this command as well for safety. And let's continue from here. Okay, so as I said previously, the forms are going to be a quite different element in our Flask application. So this is why it totally makes sense to create a Python file that we will name it forms.py, and then each form that we are going to create for some situation will be stored there. So let's go ahead and do that. So I will go under my market directory and I will create a new Python file. We will name it forms. And here we will write our forms that we want to display them on our HTML templates. Now the way that this is going to behave is quite similar to models because we are going to create classes and then we are going to create some fields inside our classes, and then that way those fields are going to be the required fields for our customers that they have to fill in order to register to our website. So let's go ahead and do that. But the first step is to actually import those libraries that we have just installed in order to create those forms. So I will basically go with form flask_wtf import flask form. And then we also want to import some special fields that are going to be recognized by a special type of field. So for example, we might have an integer field for our users if we want to ask them about the year of birth, or we might have a string field if we want to ask them about their name. So this is why we should go ahead and also import the special fields by saying from wt forms import string field. Now we can also go ahead and import more types of fields, but currently we will only start with the string field. Okay, so we will start by creating our register form. So it is going to be by saying class register form, and this will inherit from the Flask form class that we have imported over here. So this is why I will type in here Flask form. So the next thing that I will do here is creating some fields that they are going to be recognized as our form fields. So I will start by creating a username field because it totally makes sense to register our users to ask for a username. So it will be equal to string field because this is a string, and then there is a convention to give a label for each of our fields. So I will provide in here label equals to username, and I think that will be it for the username field. Now we are also going to ask the email address from our users, so I will go ahead by saying email underscore address equals to the string field again, and that time I will label it by email only, so this should be enough. Now I am also going to create two different fields for our passwords, so it will be password 1 and also password 2. Now the reason you want to do this, because mostly in each website you see a field about the password and also about the confirmation of that password. So this is why it makes sense to create two separated fields, and then later on we are going to write a validation that is going to check if password 1 is equal to password 2, so we can submit the register form successfully. So to create this, a string field is not considered as a best practice because the WT Forms has a dedicated field for password fields. So I will go here and I will import it by saying password field, and then I will create it as a password field over here like that, and I will close the parentheses, and the same will be for the password 2 as well, so I will create it as a password field. Now let's give it their labels as well, so it will be password 1 for the label of that, and for the label of password 2 it will be password 2. Alright, so now that we have created those fields, we also have to create the field that will allow the users to submit their actual information. Now when you see some forms, not only you see areas where you have to fill in some information, but you also see a button that you have to submit your final information. So this is why I will create a field that is going to be by the type of submit. So I will go to our second line here and I will import that submit field, and then I will create one submit field, so it will be submit equals to submit field, and again its label is going to be submit. So I think this should be enough for now for our register form. Later on we are going to go back to that register form to write some validations in order to make our form more secure. Okay, so now it is a great idea to import this register form class from our routes. Now we currently don't have any route for our registration page, so let's go ahead and create one. So I will go to my routes.py and I will zoom in the font here, and I will start creating a new route for our register page. So it will be @app.route, and I will navigate our users to /register, and then we will create this register page route by calling this function register page. Now the first step here would be to import that form from the forms.py. So I will go up top here and I will import it by saying from market.forms import register form. And inside that function I will basically use the register form class to create one instance of it. So it will be form equals to register form, and I will close this up like this. Now as we have completed that, we have to look up for a way to display the fields of that form inside an HTML page. Now the way that we can do that is for sure by rendering a template with the name of register, for example, and then we can pass as information our form instance. So we will say here return render underscore template, and then we will send our users to a template name register.html. And I know that we did not create it yet, but we will do it very shortly. And the information that we want to send to that template will be that form instance that we have created here. So it will be form equals to form. And I think that will be enough for this stage. And now let's go ahead and create this register.html template. So it will be here, and I will basically create a new HTML file. We will name it register, and then we will replace it with some HTML code that is going to be responsible to display that form in a very nice way. Now I will delete the auto-generated HTML, and I will start by, for sure, extending our base template. So if you remember, we have our base template that we have to inherit when we create a new template. So it will be curly brackets and then the percentage signs and then the closure for our curly brackets. And between those we will type in extends and then we will extend our base.html. Now as I have completed that, we have two blocks that we should use and then contain some information inside there. So if you remember, we had inside our base.html a block title and also a block content. So I will copy the block title and I will paste this in, and I will also copy the block content and I will paste this in as well. Now let's fix the indentation here a little bit and we will continue from here. Now if you remember, in the block title we are allowed to provide information that is going to be displayed as our tab names. So it makes sense to type in something like register page, and in here let's actually give a random information currently to test if everything works properly. So I can validate myself by only writing some basic HTML code. So let's write in here register form inside the h1 tag. Alright, so we have one more step to complete before we can go ahead and actually test this out, and that will be to create a special secret key that is going to be identified as the secret key of our Flask application. Now the main reason that you want to do that in this stage, it is because if you go ahead and test the form out right now, nothing is going to show up, because when you create forms in HTML, you actually have to provide one more security layer in order to show this form up, and that is simply because we change our request type to our clients. So until now we were able to display HTML pages for our clients, but when it comes to forms, now our clients are going to be able to submit actual information towards our database. So this is a quite different action that must be secure enough. So this is why we have to create a secret key for our Flask application. So the way that we can do that is by generating some series of characters that is going to be used as our secret key. So I will open our terminal and I will go inside Python. And I will import the OS library because simply we can generate there a hexadecimal random characters. So it will be by import OS, and then we can basically go ahead and say os.urandom, and then we can provide here the value of 12. So it will be by the value of 12 bytes. And then we can basically go ahead and convert this to hexadecimal values. And then the value that we'll be receiving back will be the secret key that we auto-generated for our application. Now there is nothing wrong with going ahead and generate more secret keys, but just make sure that if you use one, then stick to it throughout the development of that application. So let's grab this secret key and go back to our Python and navigate inside our init.py, and then here we have to write in some new configuration. So it will be app.config, and then our key here will be secret underscore key, and if we paste this in right there, and this should be inside single quotes as well, then this should be enough to display the form that we just created. So I will go back to my terminal and we can exit the Python shell now, and we can basically execute our application with python run.py, and then we can navigate back to our website and try to see what will happen if I go to /register, and then you can see that we have our page up and running. So this is quite great. Now one more thing that I'd like to do before we continue is to actually configure that navbar button where we can click on it, and then this will lead us to the route of the register page. So if you remember previously, we learned about the URL_for built-in function. So let's go ahead and configure that. So it will be as easy as going to our base.html and identify that register page, which is right there. So this is the anchor tag for our register page. And if you remember from previous examples, for example for the home page, we use this built-in URL for function. So I will allow myself to copy the exact statement and paste this in inside our href attribute. and then this could be changed to register underscore page. And now we can test this out by refreshing our page and, for example, navigate to our /home, and we can click on /register. Then you can see that it works great. So now we can continue on customizing that form. Okay, so I'm back in my register.html, and in here you could notice how I deleted the code inside our block content. Now inside the content we are going to put the form itself. And the way that we can access the form instance is referring to the variable that is passed from our route with Jinja syntax. So it will be by saying form within double curly brackets. So just to check if this works properly, we can basically navigate back to our website and see what happens if we go with /register. Then you can see that we see the object itself of the form. So this means that we can access the form itself. Now to access the actual fields and to visualize them better, we are going to take some different actions in here. So we have to create the form tag, which is a built-in tag in HTML syntax. And we also have to specify some more attributes in order to the form to work successfully. So one of them will be the method type. Now I did not talk about request methods before, but basically when it comes to websites, you have a lot of request methods that the clients can provide. And the most known request method will be the get method, where clients are requesting to display some information on different web pages. But there is also one more different request method that is called post. And the post request is a kind of request that is going to affect the database of your website. So since this is a critical action to take as a website client, then you have to specify that the method is going to be post. So it is important to provide this kind of information in here. And I will continue on by saying class equals to form-register. And the last attribute in here will be the styling. So we want to style our foreground color to white. So it will be color : white. So I'm doing this because we are working on dark mode, and it is quite important to have the foreground color set as white. Okay, so inside our form tag, we can basically refer to our form fields by saying, so I will open the curly brackets one more time in here, and I will first call the label of our form fields, and then I will call the field itself. So you will see the effect of that just in a second. So I will say form.username.label, and I will open and close the parentheses here. And below that, we can say form.username, and I can open the parentheses and close them up here again. Now, what is so special with that Flask Forms is that this statement is going to accept attributes like in real HTML code. So we could say here class, and then we could basically give it a bootstrap class. So I will say form-control, so it will be responsible to display that field a little bit nicer. And we can also give it a placeholder so our clients can understand that this field is designed for providing the username. So we can say, first of all, let's add a comma here, and we can say placeholder equals to username, like that. And let's see the actual results of a code like this. So if I'm going to our web browser and refreshing that out, then you can see that we see an empty field where we can provide some information. Now I know that this looks quite ugly, and in most of the websites the information of filling a form is starting not from the left position. So we can fix that by containerizing those fields inside one more special HTML field. So let's go ahead and do that. So I will open our Python, and in here we can containerize our form inside div tag. So I will allow myself to type in here div class container. So I will allow myself to paste this form inside those div tags, and let's fix the indentation here a little bit. And then let's test out the differences. So I will refresh this out. Now you might be bothered by the results from that username in here, but this is something that we can change in our forms.py. So this is the label of our username field. So we could basically open our forms.py and we could change the label. So now you can understand what the label does. It basically gives a kind of secondary title for our fields. So we could say here username like that, and we could also change that to email address like this, and we could also add here password like the following, and we could also change this to confirm password like that. So it makes a lot of sense to display the label of our password too as confirm password, because it probably looks nicer to our clients. So let's see the results of that. So if I refresh it, then you can see that we have a nice secondary title for that field. Now the way that we are going to continue is going to be by copying and pasting those form labels and the form fields itself. So we can basically copy and paste ourselves 4 times, and we can change this to email. We can also change that to email as well, and we can change the placeholder to email address like that, and we can do this for our passwords as well. So I will paste this in over here, and this will change to password 1, and this is going to be changed to, let's scroll down, password in here, and this is going to be password 1 as well. Great, so now I can duplicate this one more time, and we can change this to password 2, we can change this to password 2, and this will be confirm password. Now to test the results of that, we can refresh it. You can see that we receive an error, and that is fine because we defined the email field as email underscore address. So let's fix that quickly. So it will be underscore address and underscore address as well. Now you can see that I tend to not cut the errors that I receive throughout this video sometimes, because I really want you to be aware of the possible errors that you can meet throughout the process of writing any HTML code or any Python related code. So this is the reason that I'm okay with the errors and handling them on the fly. Okay, so I will refresh that out. Then you can see that we receive a lot of nicer form in here. Now I want to give a nice image for this form, and I also want to give a h1 tag so the users can see a nice big title. Now the code that I'm going to paste in here, you can find it from my website, because I put all the code snippets in the Flask tutorial section, which you can find in my courses. So I will paste it in over here, and you can see in the first tag here that I have an image tag, which is going to be responsible simply displaying the logo of my website, and the h1 tag in here that is going to say to our users, please create your account. So let's just fix the indentation in here, and I think this should be it. And I also want to add here a break line tag so we can have a separation between our header to our fields. Okay, so if we test the results, then you can see that we have a great result where we see the logo of my website, and we also have a nice title. Now it could be a lot better if we could centralize these objects, so this is something that we also can apply. And the way we can do that is by going in here and overriding the body tag of our HTML file. So I will allow myself to make the font a little bit smaller here. And what we can do here is basically wrapping the entire div with a body tag. So we can say here body, and then we can basically use the class of text dash center, and we can close this out, and we can move the closure of our body to the very last line just above the end block. And now if I refresh that out, then you can see that we receive a nice looking form where everything looks pretty clean in my opinion. Now there is one more thing left that is remained to close out this form, and this is the submit field that is missing in here. So we can basically go back to our register.html and we can add it in here. So I will call the Jinja syntax in here by using the double curly bracket, and I will call the submit field, so it will be form.submit. And now in here we can provide some bootstrap classes as well, so it will be class equals to, and then we will type in the classes that we want to include to customize this submit button a little bit better. So it will be btn, and I will type in btn-lg, which will be responsible to display this button larger, and I will also say btn-block, and this will expand the button to the entire form, and I will also type in btn-primary. So this should be responsible to display the button in a nice blue colored version. So I will save this out, and I will also add in here one more br tag, so we will have a nice separation between those. And okay, so now we can basically test the results by refreshing this page. And now you can see that we got the submit button, but we have the annoying submit text with all the lowercase. Now this happens because of the labels that we have created for each of our field again. So we should change this to something like create account. And once I have done that, then I can verify myself by refreshing it. Now you can see that we receive a nice button for the create account. Now nothing is going to happen when I click on create account and when I fill in some information. And actually this is something that we have to handle in a separated way inside our routes.py, and we will do that very soon. Okay, so that will be it for this episode, and in the next episode we are going to look what we have to do in order to create actually users, because currently if we press on the create account nothing is going to happen, and we are going to configure the functionality of that in the next episode. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please hit the like button and also consider subscribing to my channel. I will see you in the next upload.